All right, well, let's call this meeting to order. We'll call the meeting to order at 1:09 p.m. Good afternoon, everyone. Please, as a reminder, it was already stated previously, please make sure that all cameras are on through the duration of the meeting. For those who are unable to, please report for the record so that we can notate it down. So far, we have Board Member Kreiner and Board Member Smith who are unable to be on for video. But if you can, keep your cameras on at all times, including those who are from our general public. We will begin with introductions. I'm DJ Kreiner. I have been appointed by Attorney General Bonta's office, representing the Fresno area St. Louis Baptist Church, and I will popcorn it to Board Member Smith.
Thank you, Board Member Croiner. My name is Chauncey Smith, appointee of Attorney General Bonta. I'm the director at Catalyst, California. I'm happy to be here. I will pass it to Board Member Armelin. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, what's up, everybody? My apologies. I was just getting back a little late from training. My name's William Armelin. Bill's fine. I'm a professor at San Jose State. Been there for about 20 years in sociology, human rights, and all that good stuff. And this is my second term on RIPA. I will pass it to Board Member Sierra.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm Angela Sierra. I'm an attorney with the California Department.
The audio cut out.
Yeah, same. It cut out for me as well for Board Member Sierra.
Okay.
So Board Member Sierra may be having some audio issues, and we can move on to Board Member Raw to introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Jordan Rawl. I'm 17. I'm currently in high school, so I don't have a profession yet, but I was appointed by Attorney General Rob Bonta, and this is my first term. And I'll popcorn it to whoever needs to go next.
I believe that's all of the board members that are present today.
Did you say that's all the board members?
Correct.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the March 24, 2026 meeting minutes. Have we had an opportunity to review all the minutes from March 24th? If so, is there a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you so much, board member that currently doesn't have a job but is going to school. We thank you so much. All in favor, please signify with aye. Or with a hand raise or a thumbs up. Matter of fact, let's do it this way. Will DOJ staff, can you do roll call, please?
Yes, I can do that at this time. So Board Member Armelin.
Aye.
Board Member Raw.
Aye.
Board Member Sierra.
Aye.
Board Member Smith.
Aye.
Co-Chair Kreiner.
Aye.
The vote is unanimous amongst those present, and the motion carries.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. The next item on the agenda is a very important item. It's an item that serves me really, really good. We need to have a nomination and then the election of a new co-chair, as our previous co-chair has stepped down and have stepped away. So we do need a subcommittee co-chair. So what I'll do is I'll give you an explanation of the process. So what we'll do is we'll call for nominations shortly. Any board member who is currently serving as a board member of the Accountability and Complaints Subcommittee can nominate a co-chair for this subcommittee. Subcommittee members can also nominate themselves if you so choose to serve with me as a co-chair. Nominations do not need to be second, but the approval of the nomination of the individual does need to be second once we get there. Once all nominations have been collected, we'll vote on the nominees in order to figure out which we can nominate as the co-chair for this particular board. So I will now open the floor for nominations for the co-chair position.
Go ahead, Board Member Sierra.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, great. Okay. I would like to nominate Board Member Chauncey Smith.
Brother Smith, do you accept the nomination? Not the position, but the nomination.
Thank you, Board Member Sierra. Yes, I accept the nomination.
Wonderful.
Wonderful.
Are there any other nominations on the floor, or can I have a motion that the nominations be closed?
I'll move to close.
Is there a second on the floor?
I will second that.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. The nomination on the floor is for Board Member Smith to serve as co-chair with Board Member Kreiner. What do I hear?
If you'd like, I can conduct the roll call at this time.
Oh, thank you. Go ahead, sister.
Board Member Armelin,
Yay, yes.
Board Member Rawl,
Yes.
Board Member Sierra,
Aye.
Board Member Smith,
I don't think yes, I said.
Yes.
Co-Chair Kreiner.
Absolutely, yes.
The motion carries unanimously among those present. Congratulations.
If we can give a hand clap to Board Member Smith or a thumbs up, congratulations, brother. Your first act of service is to buy the co-chair some lunch from Root Chris Steakhouse. Thanks, bro. We appreciate you and we love you, man. Congratulations. Would you like to say anything, Board Member Smith or Co-Chair Smith? You said you're gonna have some pizza.
Sure. Very grateful for the opportunity to serve as a board member and also now as a co-chair of one of the subcommittees. Look forward to continuing to work with DOJ staff and other members of this committee to make sure that we are living into our goals and doing a great job. So just thanks.
Thank you, Board Member Co-Chair Smith. I really appreciate it, and it's be an honor to serve with you. And can't wait to see you in leadership, man. Congratulations again. And thank you, board members, for your participation in this vote. We appreciate you, and we can't wait to see and hear and follow the leadership of Board Member Smith, Co-Chair Smith. Well, the next item on the agenda is an update by the DOJ departments. The Department of Justice will provide this update, and then I'll turn it back over to me so we can continue. So, DOJ staff, we turn it over to you now, sir, and ma'am, and I'll go on mute.
Thank you, Pastor Kreiner. Good afternoon. My name is Rebecca Fretz. I'm an attorney in the DOJ Civil Rights Enforcement Section. Along with Martha Gomez, we will be presenting a roadmap of the draft sections of the accountability and civilian complaints sections of the 2027 RIPA report for the subcommittee to consider and discuss. We will start with the roadmap of the civilian complaints section, and then I will turn it over to Martha for the accountability section. So in last year's report, the board expressed concern with the low number of reported sustained complaints and the desire to explore the cause for this low number in future reports. During the last subcommittee meeting on March 24th, 2026, the subcommittee decided to take a closer look at law enforcement agencies' complaint investigation procedures to determine whether it could identify best practices for internal complaint investigations and for internal auditing of complaint investigations. So in the civilian complaints section, draft section of the 2027 RIPA report, first, the complaints draft will provide the annual analysis of complaint data reported by RIPA agencies. That is found on pages 1 to 2 of the draft. This section of the 2027 RIPA report will include an analysis of the 2025 civilian complaint data that the California DOJ has received from law enforcement agencies in California, including an overview of the complaint data, the disposition of those complaints, and a cross-year comparison. As you can see, this section of the report is still under development. but this will be included in the next version of the draft chapter. So next, the civilian complaints chapter will include a section entitled Law Enforcement Complaint Investigations, which starts on page 2 of the current draft. This section will include some examples of current California law enforcement agencies' policies and practices regarding complaint investigations. This is currently on page 3 of the draft. This content is also still in development and will be included in the next draft. This subsection of the report also discusses the 4 general principles that law enforcement agencies should consider and incorporate as they are developing their internal complaint investigation procedures. That is on page 4 to 7 of the current draft. These general principles are: the investigation should be independent of the unit of the officer or officers implicated in the complaint. That investigation should be thorough and timely to ensure that the investigation is objective and fair, and the disposition is appropriate. The decision-making in the investigation should be transparent to establish, restore, or enhance public confidence in the complaint investigation process. And finally, that there is needs to be an internal accountability or auditing of the internal complaint process, preferably by an external independent body. Next, the civilian complaints chapter will then discuss best practices for internal complaint investigations, which are pulled from current research. This discussion can be found on pages 7 to 15 of the draft. This section also discusses the investigation process from intake to final disposition of complaints and provides best practices for each step. As noted in the current draft, the research demonstrates that an agency's complaint intake should have clear, comprehensive, and non-discriminatory procedures for the filing of complaints. This topic was covered in other RIPA reports, so one question for the board to consider today is whether the board wants to include a section on intake or focus mainly on the investigation procedures and post-investigation procedures, such as auditing. The draft then discusses preliminary investigations and how agencies should have procedures in place to ensure that serious complaints, such as those alleging racial and identity profiling, are not being dismissed or closed out before being fully investigated. Next, the draft discusses who in the agency should investigate complaints to ensure that the investigation process is fair and objective. The draft then discusses best practice for conducting complaint investigations, including best practices for conducting interviews, the proper documentation of investigations, and effective disposition and resolution of complaints. These areas are also in development currently. So based on the current draft of the civilian complaints chapter, we have identified several topics that the board could discuss today. First, does the board want to include the intake subsection in the draft on best practices for complaint investigations? Since this topic was discussed in past reports, the board could also touch on it as part of this year's theme of past, present, and future, but put more emphasis on the complaint investigation process. Second, does the board have any recommendations regarding the disposition categories for complaints beyond the 4 required under California law? Third, are there any other recommendations that the board would like to include in this year's report in the civilian complaints section? And finally, does the board want to include a vision for future reports in the civilian complaints section? In other words, is there anything the board wants to preview or explore further on this topic for next year's report? So that concludes the civilian complaints section overview, and I'll now turn the discussion over to Martha Gomez to preview the accountability section of the report.
Thank you, Rebecca. Hello, everyone. My name is Martha Gomez, and I am an attorney with the California Department of Justice Civil Rights Enforcement Section. I will now discuss the accountability research outline for the 2027 RIPA report. This draft research outline explores the role of internal auditing procedures within law enforcement agencies as applied to complaint investigations. It is broken up into 6 main sections, which I will discuss briefly so that the subcommittee has a roadmap of the section. The first is the introduction found on page 1 of the draft research outline. The second is a discussion of internal audits and their impact, found on pages 1 through 5 of the outline. This portion of the research outline discusses key definitional terms for the benefit of the subcommittee and the public. As discussed in the outline, an internal audit is an independent, objective activity that evaluates and improves governance, risk management, and control systems. This subsection of the research outline also discusses the benefits of internal audits, as well as potential consequences law enforcement agencies should be aware of if they do not conduct internal audits. Internal audits can identify areas for improvement, enhance transparency and accountability, reduce risk and liability, improve officer training and performance by identifying gaps in training, and can help an agency demonstrate its commitment to best practices. In contrast, as noted in the draft research outline, there are a number of potential drawbacks to agencies that do not conduct internal audits, including that such agencies may experience an erosion of public trust in their complaint processes and may even experience a decrease in officer morale. Section 3 of the research outline presents best practices for auditing the investigations of racial and identity profiling complaints. These are found on pages 5 through 21 of the research outline. Much of these standards come from the Institute of Global Internal Audit Standards, which is used globally in the public and private sector, and from the government auditing standards issued by the Comptroller General of the United States. Although both these standards are not specific to law enforcement, their principles are discussed and broadly applied to this context. As noted in the research outline, we have identified 7 best practices for internal auditing of profiling complaint investigations, and they are as follows. Independence, or freedom from pressure that could compromise impartial judgment. Healthy internal auditing processes are those that have direct access to the senior oversight authority, such as a city manager or a police commission, and those that have personal independence to ensure that individual auditors remain unbiased. Objectivity, or the impartiality of fairness with which auditors perform their duties. Internal auditors must evaluate evidence and make judgments based solely on facts and established standards without allowing personal interest, relationships, or external influence to affect their conclusion. Internal audit processes should also have a clear organizational structure, including the creation of a formal audit charter, a clear reporting line, and express authority and autonomy to access all relevant material and autonomy to report on its findings. This guarantees the internal audit's autonomy in setting audit plans and performing their work without interference from management, which safeguards the auditors from external pressures. Top management support is vital for internal audit effectiveness. Without the commitment and active backing of leadership, it is difficult to ensure that audit recommendations are successfully implemented. Internal auditing processes should have a code of ethics and maintain objectivity and independence in their work with a strong moral and professional framework for auditors' behavior. Internal audit processes should also incorporate data systems, trend analysis, and early intervention to remain effective in the modern age, including the strategic integration of data analytics, artificial intelligence, and automation to analyze large volumes of data with greater efficiency. And finally, ongoing professional development helps auditors stay up to date with industry standards, regulatory changes, and emerging risks. Section 4 of the research outline contains a chart of the Wave 1 and 2 law enforcement agencies and describes whether they contain an internal audit unit and whether that unit evaluates the investigations into racial and identity profiling complaints. This section is found on pages 21 and 26. In Section 5, we have provided potential board recommendations related to internal audits of the investigations into profiling complaints. This is on page 26 and 27. We encourage the board members to discuss these potential recommendations today. The board could recommend that, to the extent possible, agencies should conduct both internal and external audits of their responses to individual complaints, as well as to the complaint procedures overall and the investigations into those complaints. While agencies can conduct their own internal audits, auditing may also be particularly valuable when conducted by an entity outside of the law enforcement agency. The board could recommend that law enforcement agencies should augment existing audit procedures, or where none exist, transition to proactive internal auditing frameworks that utilize integrity testing, independent review, and data-driven analysis to address the historically low rate of sustained profiling complaints, ensure investigative integrity, and build public trust. Concurrently, the board could recommend that academic and professional communities conduct deeper empirical research to identify exactly what constitutes an effective internal audit framework in policing. Finally, we have an area for the subcommittee's vision for future reports on page 27. This section is under development, and we welcome the subcommittee's input about what they would like to see for next year's report and for upcoming reports. I will now turn it back to Co-Chair Kleiner for the subcommittee to discuss this report. Before discussing the report, however, I should note that there is going to be a scheduled break for accommodation purposes. So we will be off camera for about 5 minutes.
Okay, well, okay.
If board members can come back to the meeting and turn on their cameras at this time. But Chair Chauncey, are you able to turn on your camera at this time?
I will be able to turn it on in just a second.
Thank you. I believe we have quorum again at this time.
Wonderful.
Board Member Hawkins is on, and I'm having a problem turning my camera on.
No problem. Welcome, sis. You kind of scared us, though. I'm not gonna lie to you. Well, welcome. Yeah, board member Will. His eyes went big. Yeah, he scared us all. So welcome. Good to have you. Well, we want to welcome everyone back. As was already asked and instructed, make sure cameras are on. Those that cannot, we definitely understand. Board Member Smith, if yours go off, we understand the reasoning why. Thank you so much. But now that we have concluded our updates, let's move to our board discussion for plans for the 2027 report. So the next agenda item is a discussion on this. So we're going to look at the draft of the Accountability and Civilians Complaint section of the 2027 RIPA report. Do any board members have comments or questions regarding the accountability section discussed by the DOJ? Board member Williams, it's on you.
Cool, thank you. So first of all, it seems to me, just asking a couple questions real quick. It seems to me that the accountability section, the approach is very similar to what we did with sort of civilian boards, civilian oversight boards. It seems like a very sort of similar approach where we're kind of demonstrating like, here's kind of how they work, here's kind of where we think best practices are, things like that. And that all seems great. Kind of took a look through it. It looks good. Looks like the research is pretty dope. I'm just, it seems to me that we're taking a similar approach as we did for the sort of like taking a look at civilian complaints boards in the prior report. And if that's the intention, then I think it looks really good. With the first part of the report, the civilian complaints part, I guess I have a question for DOJ. I mean, I was trying to read through it as best I could when you all were presenting, but obviously I need some more time with it. But I just kind of wanted to ask, I can see regarding the sort of our concern from last year, right, where we had all of these complaints, but only like literally a handful out of thousands were seen as relevant, as legit, whatever. And so that's really what we wanted to look into, right? And so I guess my question is, I see a whole lot with regard to best practices, where we're doing kind of same thing, where we're doing a bunch of research saying this is kind of what we think the best practices are to deal with these complaints, blah, blah, blah. But I guess my question is, do you all really feel like we are doing any real investigation into what happened? So like those are kind of two different things to me. So like it's one thing that we're saying, hey, this is the way we would like everybody to do this. But that ain't my concern. My concern is we got a bunch of people who did not so great work. And we need to find out what happened there. That's my question. Are you satisfied that we're actually doing that part with this? Or are we just simply doing what we're doing without accountability, which is like, in a perfect world, this is how we do this, right? Hopefully my question is making sense.
Angela, did you want to go first, and then we can also jump in and discuss?
Sure. I mean, because I had one comment on the complaints portion of the draft, and I think, Bill, this does, it is related to the point you're making, is to, if something, I mean, I think what we're saying here, there's a concern, where you're like, there may be several reasons why these numbers are low, and we're trying to tease that out. Here are some best practices. But, as I was thinking through that, looking through the complaint draft, the civilian complaint draft, there is part of me that's been thinking, and we may have addressed this issue in a prior report. So if that's the case, DOJ, you could remind me of that and maybe we can tie it in. But I think that part of, to the extent that if there is a problem with these numbers, is the problem because of how the 4 disposition categories are being interpreted, or what law enforcement agencies are requiring for their burden of proof, so to speak, when they are looking at and investigating these complaints. So right now in our draft, on page 15 of our civilian complaint draft, we talk about how the disposition must be classified within one of the following categories: sustained, not sustained, exonerated, and unfounded. And personally, I think either we can remind ourselves from a prior report, or we could bring that up higher and develop that more. Like, what do those terms really mean? And or is there a way to find out, like, how are those being interpreted, by a typical law enforcement agency? How much evidence is being required to sustain a complaint? And I think we would have to brainstorm and think about, like, how do we find that out? What does it mean to be not sustained versus unfounded? Because I think there is a fair possibility that some of the issue lies in that versus the actual practices of, intake is really important. We've already discussed that, I think, quite a bit in prior reports. And I think we are bringing, to the forefront some good practices on how you do an investigation. But I think this is a key area, at least from my perspective. I think it's a key area, and we could do some more exploring there. And again, I think this is, how we investigate, or how we look into, how agencies on the ground are really interpreting and applying these categories is kind of another topic that, maybe we can explore today and think a little more about. I don't know if maybe there's researchers have looked into this, and maybe there's some research on this. Go ahead, Bill.
No, I just want to say thank you so much, Angela. You articulated some specifics there that I didn't, and I think that's really helpful. I guess the overarching, and please excuse me for being my typical brutally honest self, the message that I think we need to be very clearly sending to the public, and if I was a member of the public attending this meeting right now and listening to this, my expectation would be there would be a WTF moment in this report. The message that needs to be sent to all law enforcement that are reporting to us is, if you think we're going to see a number like this and just let it go, you're a lunatic. We are not stupid. There are plenty of us that are very, very highly trained in statistics and all of these kinds of things. And I'll say what I said when we originally brought up this problem. That is either the greatest statistical anomaly in the history of statistics, or there's a big problem. It's one or the other. There is not a third option here in the reality of social science and data. And so for us not to look like imbeciles, we need to have a very strong statement that says, this is unacceptable. We don't know exactly what the problem is, but there's a problem. And what I'm asking is, what are we doing in terms of research to find out what the problem is? And I think it's great. We can say this is how we define terms, But if I'm Sheriff X and I feel like doing whatever the F I feel like doing, and I can just send you whatever data I feel like sending you, it does not matter what you tell me the words mean. Right? So I'm saying this just to be very brutally honest on this. I don't mean any kind of anything toward anyone. I'm just, if I were a member of the public and I were looking at this data and I were looking to our board, this is what I would expect. right? And so I'm just wondering, to what extent are we able to deliver that, right? My apologies for being far less articulate than Angela on the specifics, and I appreciate her help there.
Let's maybe add one other point. I mean, and again, if DOJ, if you remember off the top of the head, if we've already dealt with this issue of like the categories and all that, but you know, in one possibility is to see if any of the agencies are, you know, willing to bring a representative and talk to us about, you know, like what does it take to sustain a complaint? Does it mean that they have to need like they need, you know, body-worn camera evidence, or what is it? Is the bar so high that, you know, it makes it almost impossible to get a complaint sustained in this context? So that may be one way. But again, I don't know if there's been some research already done on this, that at least that we could use, you know, maybe even if it's California or non-California, that may be helpful. But that's just one additional thought.
Member Hawkins, go ahead.
Yes, I support Bill. We have to have some form of accountability to law enforcement when it comes to these numbers. If we don't, the community will not support and believe in us if we're the RIPA board. And it creates a problem. We're already having a problem with the community believing in data. And then when we have numbers like this, it really blows it out of perspective. It's very important that we as a committee get to the bottom of this and find out why was these numbers submitted like this, and make sure that they don't submit these numbers like this again. It's major. It has to be some form of accountability. Yeah, it can't just go, hey, they submitted the numbers, they're wrong, and we just pass it on and say, come up with it. No. It makes us all look bad on the board, and we all will not go down like that. I'm with Bill. We need to send something a little bit stronger, and we need to let them know that we're holding all of these people accountable, every law enforcement in the state, if they don't straighten this matter out. They have people that they hire to put these numbers together. Someone has to be checking them before they are submitted. There's no excuse.
And not to pile on here, but I think, you know, I think Board Member Hawkins is bringing up another issue that's of central concern to our committee and of DOJ, right? And I think one of our central concerns that we all shared, I mean, long ago in this committee, was we want to make sure the members of the public feel like they have the ability and the right to report on the activities of law enforcement, no matter what those happen to be, no matter what it's about, no matter what it is. And if I'm a member of that public, right, you know, I have, you know, black wife and children and these sorts of things, like in actual real life, and I'm looking at these numbers and I see that, well, look, everybody that makes a complaint to law enforcement, nobody gets sustained. Like, everybody takes the risk to put their name out and to go through the process and all that, but I see only 3 people or 4 people or whatever get that sustained.
The government.
Yeah,
Telling
it's
the
one of
government.
those, it's one of those things, right?
Hey,
you're still on mic, Lawanda.
We only had 10 reports the whole year. Bullshit.
I think you're clear to go, DOJ.
DOJ, is there a response?
Thank you. We've taken note of all these suggestions, and yes, we'll look further into ways that we can get to the bottom of this. Some of the, you know, obviously, as Member Sierra mentioned, you know, there can be numerous reasons for causing this low number of sustained complaints, you know, whether it's dispositions and how they're categorizing them, you know, procedures, as noted in the report, you know, there's quite a bit of discretion under the law on how they implement their procedures. So we are looking into this further. We will continue to do research and develop this report. I know we've talked to, you know, we are talking to some experts as well about, you know, ways to go about looking into this further. So we will continue to develop this for the future draft. and look into, as I think it's been mentioned a few times, having some agencies come and speak to the subcommittee if we can get them before the next subcommittee meeting to maybe come speak to you all as well and explain a little bit more their processes and how they are, processing, investigating these complaints and arriving at these dispositions. So we will continue to develop it. Thank you.
This is Angela. I have one more thought something just to consider. To make it less abstract, as part of our discussion and as we're further developing this along the lines of our conversation, I wonder if it'd be helpful to have like 1 or 2 hypothetical complaints, that maybe we feel are like maybe are more of a common type of racial profiling complaint. And when we're giving advice about steps to take or what can be done to investigate that complaint in that particular context, it might be helpful. It may both show like, okay, here's some things that could be very helpful. And it may also show here are the challenges that law enforcement face when receiving these complaints as well. So that's just one idea to consider as we're further thinking through this draft.
Thank you, Angela. We appreciate the further, concrete examples of potential avenues that we can take with this.
Thank you.
Yeah. And finally, as Bill noted in the comment, I think the draft is looking great. I am not suggesting that we delete information. I think it's just, adding information, because I think all the work you have done has been really incredible, and I think it's important.
Yeah, and like I said in chat too, guys, if I can be of any help on methods or anything like that, like we've done in the past, just get a hold of me offline. I'm happy to step in. Whatever I can do to help. It's all just trying to contribute and work together on this.
Are there any further questions or comments? Go ahead, Board Member Sierra.
Yes, on the accountability chapter, where we have the chart of the different law enforcement agencies and what they're doing with respect to internal auditing or review, there were on some of them where we were uncertain, and I was just curious if, to the extent that we have resources to follow up with some of those agencies to give them the opportunity also to let us know if we're kind of uncertain about whether or not they have a auditing, mechanism or something akin to that.
We can do that.
Yeah, and I think both, would add to the reporting. And again, I think the agencies would at least have that opportunity to provide the information if they would like to. I think it's a good idea. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I'm almost kind of figuring out if we've already accomplished the recommendations as well. What do you all think? All right, are there any further proposed recommendations? All right, let's move on to the civilian complaint section. Are there any questions or comments regarding the civilian complaint section? What about proposed recommendations?
Yeah, I gave everything I got, bro.
I know you did, man. I know you did, man. You went for that thing. Okay, well, if not, let's move to public comment, if so choose. Board members, do you have any objections to us moving forward to public comments since we've already accomplished our recommendations? Okay, thanks, bro. Well, at this time, what we'll do is we'll invite the members of the public. We need you, I would like you to provide comments regarding the accountability and supervision complaint section of the report. Do us a favor, if you don't mind, if you would raise your hand by using the Teams function. So there's a function on the bottom of your screen that gives you the ability to raise your hand. Do us a favor, raise that hand. It's going to probably be a yellow hand, but don't worry about it. We're going to recognize who you are. And if you would do so now and unmute yourself once we call you, we'll do so, okay? We'll go by section. So we're going to take it by each section of the state of California. We'll start with the Northern California area. So if there's anyone from the Northern California area, if you would like to speak, please raise your hand on your function on your camera, and then we'll go ahead and call on you, and you go ahead and speak. Do us a favor to introduce yourself and the area that you represent. That would be terrific. Are there any comments from Northern California? Okay, if you're not, first, please. That'd be great, please. On a public conversation of the Jamaican brother, if you could mute your phone just until we're done, that'd be great, brother. Thank you, man. Okay, one more time, Northern California. Okay, we'll move to Central California. Central California. Central California. Okay, we'll conclude with Southern California. Brother, Jamaican? Brother?
Hi, hello.
Hello.
I will represent myself as the Jamaican, and I will not tell you where I'm calling from. The last time we had this exchange, my full name and my place I'm calling from somehow appeared in the minutes of that meeting, and I did not particularly appreciate that, and I will not invite a repetition today. I find interesting and unacceptable the exercise that we have undertaken today. And there are a number of reasons for it. And the first one begins with data. Data is essential to our doing anything, but yet the California Department of Justice continues to hide all of the data that it has had since April. My request is now over 2 months past due, and my attempts to communicate with the people who make these decisions have gone unanswered, unattended. Those requests became complaints, and we're here talking about complaints, and complaints cannot be made. As they cannot be made to you, they cannot be made to law enforcement agencies either. So look inside, look internally first before you point a finger towards them. I need to see RIPA stop data, and I have made lawful request of it, and I made the request here on this meeting site, and that went ignored too. And I speak directly to Angela Sierra. She sits there, she seems to be looking at me, and she has not responded. I did not hear you. Are you saying something to me?
No, no one is saying anything, but if we can reframe and try to give as much respect as possible, that we'd appreciate it, man.
Well, I have not been disrespectful. I have been direct. And I take it that you take umbrage to my being direct. You are not used to the likes of me. Get used to me, sir. Now, no one can file complaints with certain law enforcement agencies. That is a given. That has been long documented, and if you try, they will find a way to rephrase your complaint into something innocuous. This is why the California Department, not the California, but the Commission in San Diego is being sued because of what they do. And any of them could be sued too for having done the same thing. You know what they do, I know what they do, so the first thing to do is admit it. Thank you very much.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Are there any other comments from Southern California? Any comments from Southern California? Are there any other public comments at all? We want to give respect to every individual that would like to make comments. Okay, as I hear none, I would like to thank all members of the public for your comments and for your respect and honor to each and every one that is on the call. Thank you so much to our DOJ for listening, as well as our board members for giving our public the opportunity to speak with a respect to each and every individual who is on the call. Now, before we step and conclude our meeting for today, I'd like to see if our Department of Justice, if there's any questions regarding next steps that you have. DOJ, do you have any questions regarding next steps?
No, I don't think I do. Martha, is there anything else?
I don't. I think you guys gave a great feedback, and we'll take it. And
Wonderful. Wonderful. To each and every one of our board members, do any of you have comments or final comments that you would like to make or questions before we move to the adjournment of this meeting? Awesome. Wonderful. Well, if there is nothing else, we would like to conclude our meeting. Our meeting will conclude at 2:03 p.m. I do need a motion to conclude our time together. Is there a motion on the floor?
So moved. And also,
Is
just
there-
real quick, I didn't get to say this earlier. I just want to welcome again our new and young board member Jordan to the board. I think it's so dope that you're on here, fam. And I just
Yep.
want to like take a minute to be like, if there's anything you need, you have any questions, you're confused, lost, anything like that, DOJ, would you do me a favor and please get her my contact information, if you don't mind, if someone could do that. You don't have to contact me. You don't, ignore this old man if you want. That's totally fine. But I'm just saying, like, I want to make sure that one of us reaches out to you and is like, hey, welcome. I know it might be a little intimidating, whatever, but you're good. Stay here. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have any questions, anything at all, you let me know. All right? Anything at all. Okay? I just want to say I'm psyched you're here and welcome, okay?
Thank you so much.
Of course. Of course.
And Jordan, you have niece, you have Uncle William, and you have Uncle DJ that got your back. So we're here with you, okay? But you don't look intimidated at all, girl. The way you was handling these calls, you was doing your thing. We proud of you. We super proud of you. So welcome, sis. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And we care so much about not just you being on it, but we care about your existence and what God has for you. So thank you, Board Member Will. We appreciate you, bro, for all your support and all that you give to each and every one of you. Thank you. Again, the Jamaican, if you don't mind, could you mute your phone again one more time, brother, please? All right. I do have a Board Member Hawkins that would like to speak. Board Member, is your hand raised, ma'am?
Yes, hi. And I would just like to welcome the new board member Jordan to this committee, and hang in there. You'll get to understand it and you'll see. Yeah, but we're fighting for our community to make sure that their rights are being protected. And I say thank you for joining this committee.
Thank you so much, Board Member Hawkins. And again, thank you for your years of service as the co-chair. We appreciate you and we honor you. If there is nothing else, and seeing that the motion was moved and passed and accepted, we will adjourn the meeting at now 2:05 p.m. Thank you so much to each of you. You guys have an amazing, awesome, and a tremendous day. And we'll talk to you when we talk to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye now.